All right, Shalom. Before we start, going to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rachakorash, to honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Peace, blessings, and salutations to all the elect Akim Wa Akwa. Learning, teaching in truth and sincerity. Another video of the Spirit. Your brother Malak from GMS Detroit. Got this clip that we're going to let play. You know, it's a little bit, but it's good. You know, don't mind the dude's face paint. He's actually going to be speaking on something that's notable here. Then we'll go take a look into it. Y'all, hey man, we're dealing with the same thing all over again. There's nothing new under the sun. In this world, you have the sons of God, you have, you know, the woman, right? Eve, but then you have the serpent. Once again, when the man is weak and gives in to the temptation from the woman, right, which she gets from the serpent, it leads to absolute chaos in the world, and we see it repeated even in today's current era. Let's let it play. We'll see what's going on.
Most about the human race? Probably what's presented. Go away to Miami. What pisses me off most about the human race? Probably what's presented in this book here, Sex and Culture. So what pisses me off most about the human race is, I think, women throughout history, throughout every civilization, throughout every culture, are in a constant state of trying to slut out all the time. It is men constantly who are the ones responsible for stopping women from doing this. This then makes women see men as oppressors, which is, you know, that sucks for both sides. As a woman, you feel like you're being oppressed. As a man, you're being viewed as an oppressor all the time. Secondly, the second women are allowed to become complete whores, they do end up dominating society, and they get everything. They get all the money, all the power, all the influence, all the success. They get everything they want. The worst part about all of this, and the more you read this book, the more this happens. Every single time this happens, it happens for a very short time before the entirety of the civilization crumbles to dust. So women are in a constant state of trying to be whores. Men are in a constant state of making sure women do not do that. The moment women do that, there's a brief period of utter, total female dominance, which is then abruptly met with total annihilation. The thing I hate about the human race is we've developed this immense tool, our minds, this incredible ability to create what we've created. We are so deeply, profoundly more intelligent than any other creature on Earth. And yet, unfortunately, we are plagued by the same instinctual desires to mate and breed, and we are the same slaves to that drive and desire as any other fucking animal.
Yeah, I think the way he said it was very harsh.
You know, he said all that. We're actually going to take a look into something. All right, so this is something right here we're going to deal with. I'll also, you know, get another video on it. Something that happened back in Rome, right? And this is this appears to be during Edomite ruled Rome, right? BC era, not the AD era that Jake would go on to take over. It says in 195 BC, the conservative Roman Council, Cato the Elder, gave a famous speech opposing the repeal of the Lex Oppia. This sumptuary law passed in 215 BC, so 20 years earlier, during the Second Punic War, restricted women from wearing expensive clothing and possessing more than half an ounce of gold. All right, the Second Punic War was when Hannibal Barca was fighting against Rome. You know, he you know was doing damn good, right? Was looking like he was gonna take down Rome, but then, you know, he had that disastrous decision to walk through the mountains. A lot of his army died, and eventually he was defeated. If I remember correctly, his final battle was the Battle of Zama with Scipio Africanus, right? So this is real history, right? When women are given freedom, and this ain't just we're just showing you, the whole point of this video, y'all. When law and order goes out the window, the empire finally collapses, and that's what we're seeing in America. All the freedoms and liberties that have been given, it's essentially a self-destruct bomb. Every empire does it. Hey, that famous video that brothers, the apostles and elders had used years ago. It mentions the age of decadence, and that's what Rome went through in its final decline. The age of decadence, sexual liberty. You can do this, you can do that. Well, this bitch is out the window. What great empire do we see repeating it today? America. Hey, feminism ain't nothing new. This is the same thing under the sun. And before Rome did it, what does this all go back to? The garden, y'all. Come on. It says Cato argued against its repeal by emphasizing the need for strict male authority in the household. He claimed that if women were granted financial freedom and the ability to display luxury, they would become ungovernable and trample on men's authority in the forum. His defense rested on the traditional Roman belief that curbing extravagance was necessary to preserve morality and martial vigor. Maybe they should have listened to Cato. You get them that liberty, and what's going to happen? And is not Rome famous for its freakism and craziness? It started out strong, it started out mighty, but eventually, what happens? Let's get that scripture out of Tobit. Y'all already know. Tobit 4:13. Now therefore, my son, love thy brethren, and despise not in thy heart thy brethren, the sons and daughters of thy people, and not taking a wife of them. For in pride is destruction and much trouble, and in lewdness is decay and great want. For lewdness is the mother of famine. Lewdness brings destruction to your empire, which is why, y'all, us the Israelites in the kingdom of heaven, we have a dress code. We have laws of decency. Who you can and can mate with, who you can and can be around, if you are or aren't married, right? What you should and shouldn't be doing with your persons, meaning your body. Let's actually look up the meaning of that word lewd. And now here in America, hey, these people have been able to enjoy, you can chop your thing off and mix and match. You can declare to be a dog, right? All these little extra liberties, and the Heavenly Father, slowly, bit by bit, He's been breaking and decaying the morals of this society to bring it to an absolute end. It says lewd, non-clerical, unlearned, unlettered, uneducated. It says descended to coarse, vile, lustful. What do you see in America? Extreme lust, extreme vulgarity, extreme unlearnedness, people doing things that they ought not, doing what they feel, not being restricted. That brings an end to an empire. Empires can only last when people are in order, when people, follow within the guidelines. And one of the reasons why the elite, Esau, Edom, the elite banking families that work from the shadows, they gave liberty to the women to destroy the family unit so that they can have more power over the people and put everybody in debt, through consumerism. Break the man from his power, specifically the Israelite man. What happened in the garden? Eve was deceived by the serpent, and that disrupted the power chain of Adam over Eve, which then broke the connection between Adam and the Heavenly Father. It's the same thing all over again. Lex Oppia says Cato's arguments in his fight to keep Oppian law in place touched on several core points. The loss of male control. Cato lamented that men had lost control over their wives at home. He famously argued, if we had each one of us made it a rule to uphold the rights and authority of the household in our own house, rights and authority of the husband in our own households, we should not now have this trouble with the whole body of women. Damn. So he said if everybody was holding their house down, all this shit wouldn't even be going on. He didn't lie. Same thing today. Cucks, simps, all that shit. Fatherless homes. You see the impacts. Why is and someone, well, why do y'all just want to oppress? This ain't about being mean and belittling and oppressing women. Women are the teachers of the children. If the women are not in order, the offspring are not in order. You will begin to breed a cycle of broken and destroyed minds repetitively. That's why it is integral for women to be on the same path and mindset as their husband in order, else the family unit is completely hogwashed. And that's what we see in America. Everybody's bugged out because they were destroyed from the foundation. The danger of unchecked desire says he compared women's desires for luxury to an uncontrollable disease. Damn. He warned that granting women freedom in their appearance and spending would result in an orgy of extravagance that society could not restrain. Come on. Hey, in our law, what? Women got to be covered, right? Bodies got to be covered. Now, in the kingdom of heaven, yes, will our women be beautiful? Will they have, great clothing and jewelry and all that? Yes, but it will be in order, all right? You ain't gonna be no stomach bikinis out. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody gonna be wearing yoga pants. That shit is satanic, G. Real talk. You know? Look at the world now, man. It says undermining Roman society. Cato believed that the display of wealth and finery would lead to civic corruption and undermine the foundational ideals of simplicity and duty that he felt made the Roman Republic strong. So hey, he put up some good arguments, but did he win? No. It says despite Cato's impassioned arguments and the backing of his conservative allies, a massive, unprecedented street protest by Roman women succeeded. The Lex Oppia was ultimately repealed by the popular assembly. Damn. So just like today, hey, the decades pass, feminism, women's rights, all that good stuff. And now all these decades later, we see what it's turned into, which is what? Chaos. Okay, I had to search for a second. But what led me to this, y'all, as I was watching this video, I came across this comment. It says how women collapsed Rome in 195 BC. What Cato said then is prevalent today. This guy left this comment about Cato and the idea of, Lex Oppia. I just had to go find it before I knew I wasn't tripping. Yep. This ain't nothing new, y'all. It's the same thing under the sun. This unbridled liberty and freedom leads to the absolute enfolding. This is why the scriptures tell you keep what? Keep straight. What is it? Sirach 26. Yeah, Sirach 26, and I just clicked it. Don't do me like that, but whatever. Sirach 26. This fucking glitchy ass app. It's getting worse every day. Sirach 26 and 10. It says, if thy daughter be shameless, keep her in straitly, lest she abuse herself through overmuch liberty. Watch over an impudent eye, and marvel not if she trespass against thee. Hey, this is what they do. And when they're off track, the men are going to be off track because the men are only going to do, what's necessary to try to mate. It's all related. This all goes back to the garden, baby. The sons of God, are Adam, Eve, and the serpent. And we see this repeated. Adam, Eve, and the philosophy of the serpent. Diving into that knowledge that you're not supposed to, and it spreads and it brings death into the world. This is bigger than I'm the man of the house. Listen to me, nigga. We're dealing with the order given to us from on high. This is how death. Come on, Jake. Man. Wisdom of Solomon, I'm going to start at 2 and 23. It says, for the power Yahweh created man to be immortal and made him to be an image of his own eternity, which literally, right, we were immortal back then, and then you see the curse hit because of evil. Nevertheless, through envy of the devil came death into the world, and they that do hold of his side do find it. The fall of Adam. And then what hits us? The fact that we'll have to work the land, right? Women will experience uh, child labor pains. Genesis, we just jumping down Genesis 3, and after all that, what happened, man? Genesis 3, and we know this isn't dealing with eating actual fruit and wearing clothes. This is diving into knowledge that was forbidden. Adam and Eve only knew good. Adam and brought up Eve, right, in that good order. You read it says, and closed up the flesh thereof, right? Adam was given the law, statutes, and commandments, the way of life that he was supposed to live by, the order of the angels. Eve stepped out of that. Then she lured in Adam to step out of that by giving into the philosophies of the other Adamites around them, the other ways of life that we were not supposed to know at that time. And now you see the world, good and evil, filthy, abominable. Genesis 3, and I'm going to start 13. It says, And Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai said unto the woman, What is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. Dove into that knowledge. And Yahweh Power said unto the serpent, okay, this is good. Jumping down. So the serpent was cursed as well. We know, which would go on to be Esau, Edom, right? Him going into that base state for a time. I'm jumping down now though to 16. It says, And unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception, and in sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. So child pains, right? And the fact that women, they're supposed to be ruled over by their man. So there's this constant power struggle. Verse 17, And unto Adam he said, Because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake, and sorrow thou shalt eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. And the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken. For dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. Y'all, this was a curse. To have to labor, to have to work. This is a curse. We lost our immortality. We lost our, that glow. And then of course, you go down the line. The sons of God start acting a nut. The Heavenly Father shortens mankind's lifespan. This is what happens when you want to give out some liberty. All right, so now we're back here, and I'm just gonna let this play out to show you, what actually the actual history, right, behind it. And this, I don't like these little AI videos, but this is the breakdown seemed to be on point according to what happened. So I'm gonna just let this play, man.
Imagine Rome in 195 BCE. Hannibal has been defeated, the Republic is flourishing, and yet the streets are filled with crowds of women.
And Hannibal was an Israelite, Hannibal Barca, right? The man in history, who was fighting against Rome, a real man, and he was an Israelite man. They were, you look him up on Google. Here it is. You'll see the man's name in Paleo Hebrew, right? He was in Carthage, right? That empire. The first Punic War was of his father fighting Rome, and then when his father died, then his older brothers was fighting, taking over, and then eventually got passed down to Hannibal, right? So this is real history.
Celebrating, but protesting. They are demanding the repeal of a law that had controlled their clothing, their jewelry, even their freedom to ride in carriages. This was the Lex Oppia, and its repeal became one of the most dramatic moments of women's collective action in Roman history. The Lex Oppia was passed 2 decades earlier, in the darkest days of the Second Punic War. Hannibal had crushed Roman armies, resources were scarce, and sacrifice was demanded from all citizens. The tribune Gaius Oppius introduced a strict law: no woman could own more than half an ounce of gold, wear brightly colored garments, or ride in a carriage within the city.
And now, like I said, in the kingdom, the Israelite women, they're going to be in order, right? It's not going to be, ridiculous oppression to where she can't even look pretty, but we're going to have things in order, all right? So this, there has to be order. It's going to be done righteously, but there does have to be order. Otherwise, things do get bad.
Except during religious ceremonies. It was a wartime austerity measure, meant to preserve resources and discourage luxury while Rome fought for survival. By 195 BCE, everything had changed. Rome was victorious, wealth was flowing in, and citizens enjoyed peace. But women still lived under wartime restrictions. Two tribunes, Marcus Fundanius and Lucius Valerius, proposed repealing the Lex Oppia. The response was extraordinary. Roman women flooded the streets in protest. They stopped men on their way to the Forum, begging for their votes. Livy writes, "Nor could the matrons be kept at home, either by advice or shame, nor even by the commands of their husbands, but they beset every street and pass in the city, beseeching the men that they might have their former ornaments restored. Their numbers grew daily. Women even traveled in from the countryside. They surrounded magistrates and tribunes, demanding repeal. For once, the political stage of Rome was taken over not by soldiers, but by women." But Marcus Porcius Cato, later known as Cato the Elder, was outraged. To him, the protest was not just about jewelry or carriages. It was about power, discipline, and control. If each man had kept his wife under control, we should have less trouble with the whole sex. But now we cannot endure them one by one at home, and we fear them in a body here in the Forum. Once they are your equals, they will become your superiors. Cato believed that women's desires were dangerous and insatiable. He compared their love of spending to a disease. A woman's desire to spend money is a sickness which cannot be cured, only restrained. To Cato, luxury was a threat as dangerous as Hannibal had been. He feared Rome's new prosperity would corrupt its morals. He even linked the Lex Oppia to other sumptuary laws, like the Lex Famnia and Lex Didia, which limited banquets and feasting. All were, in his mind, necessary chains to keep greed and extravagance under control. Lucius Valerius answered Cato with equal passion. He reminded Rome that the law had been passed in wartime, when every resource was needed for survival. Now, with peace restored, it was unfair to deny women what they had given up only out of necessity. He pointed to history. Women had often sacrificed for Rome, donating their gold after the Gallic sack, contributing their wealth in the punitive.
And so once again, the serpent stands up on behalf of giving, the ladies that extra unneeded liberty. And what do you see? The collapse. So it's the same thing all over again, y'all. No new thing under the sun, baby. No new thing under the sun. Will we forbid women to the use of purple? Even your horse will be more beautifully arrayed than your wife is clothed. So there you go. That's simp talk. Like I said, in the kingdom, it's not going to be boring, bland, overbearing rules, but we need order because now we see the world without order, and it ain't no good, baby. It ain't no good. So hey, I don't need the whole thing. We know eventually. In 195 BC, they repealed the Lex Oppia, and even that whole idea of repealing law, that America's, the amendments, right? Meaning you can change them. What does that go back to? Ancient Rome. It's the same shit all over again each time, y'all. So just a little bit of history. If you didn't know, now you know, nigga. Hey, I'm gonna give all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, or Chakurash, double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Peace, blessings, and salutations to all the elect Akim. Wah, Akwath, learning, teaching in truth and sincerity. Shalom.